Hi, first grade. Today I want to talk to you about your animal report. I know a lot of you have already chosen your animal. That was one of your assignments this week, to choose your animal and then to do the first page of the report. So I want to talk to you today about what that first page should look like. And then next week, when you write your 5 sentences and you draw your picture, you'll have it in perfect order. Okay, now remember, when we write, we want to take care of the most important parts of writing, which are sentence structure. And we want to make sure that our sentences make sense to the reader. So I thought I would use a giraffe today as an example. A giraffe is my favorite animal. Whenever I go to the zoo, I spend a lot of time there observing the giraffes. Do you know what observing means? To observe means to look at something closely and study it. Well, I used this picture of the giraffe to discover the giraffe's adaptations. We can learn a lot by just observing things. If you were going to write about a giraffe today, what's the first adaptation you notice about the giraffe? Probably its long neck, right? That's what giraffes are famous for. So I would use the picture to identify the giraffe's adaptation. I'm also going to talk about the giraffe's long legs. So I already have 2 adaptations that I can talk about on my giraffe just by looking at its picture. Now, I didn't have a book about giraffes. I do have a lot of animal books. I have this one about cats that I showed Melanie the other day. I don't have one about giraffes though, so I had to look for my own information. I did have a workbook page from the classroom, so I used this to study more about giraffes. And you might have to do that about your animal. You might have to go on the internet with mom and dad and discover your animal's habitat or your animal's adaptations. You can also use some of the vocabulary words to help you describe your animal. So when you're writing your report and when you're talking about the animal's adaptations, think about some of these words you could use. Adaptation is our first word. How about number 2? Does your animal use camouflage? And if your animal is camouflaged, why? Is it for defense, or is it just so that it looks pretty? Maybe God just decided to make that animal look interesting and colorful. Is your animal endangered? What environment does your animal live in? I heard one first grader tell me that they were going to write about a dinosaur, and if you write about a dinosaur, you would need to use this word, extinct, because the dinosaurs are not alive on the earth anymore, so they're called extinct. You also might want to talk about your animal's instinct. So what that animal knows to do to survive. Nobody had to teach the animal. God created it with an instinct to know how to survive. Habitat. You're going to tell me where your animal lives. Number 9, protection. Does one of your animal's adaptation help it protect itself? And then is your animal a predator or a prey? So these are animal vocabulary words you should be thinking about as you write your animal report. And now I want to show you how I got started on my animal report. The first page was due this week. It was one of your assignments this week to pick your animal and begin page 1. So I took my poster board and I started page 1 so we could talk about what yours should look like. Now I also have it completed like this. But since it's harder for you to see, let's look at it on my big poster board. At the top would be your name, and then make sure you have your animal report page. Make sure it's the correct one. Some of the pages say animal adaptation, but that's the same report. And the first question, what animal will you write about? And you're going to answer that in a complete sentence. Now, since I chose the giraffe, here's what my sentence says. I will write about a giraffe. Okay, so I started my sentence with an uppercase letter, and I ended it with punctuation, and I made sure that I had the right amount of space. Now, remember that, well, don't remember, let me tell you. When I created this assignment, I made the lines just a little bit smaller. In second grade, when you write reports, your lines will be smaller. So we're getting ready for second grade right now. If you need another one of these, because maybe you didn't write small enough, let Mrs. Coppola know and I can email you another one. So the first question, what animal will you write about? I answered that again in a complete sentence. I will write about a giraffe. Now, if the animal you picked it was the elephant, I wouldn't want you to answer that by just saying elephant right here. Okay, we know how to write complete sentences, so think about that. Here's the next question. What is this animal's habitat? Well, where does your animal live? And here's how I answered that question. Giraffes live in the grasslands of Africa. And I had to look that information up. Mrs. Coppola just saw a mistake on her paper. So I'm going to fix it right here in front of you. You might remember that I told you what an editor is. An editor is a word with a suffix, OR at the end, and an editor means you look at somebody's writing or work and you help make changes or you help make corrections. For this sentence, what is this animal's habitat? I needed to have an apostrophe there because it's what belongs to the animal. So I needed an apostrophe S. Now let's get back to how I answered the question. Giraffes, and I have more than one giraffe, live in the grasslands of Africa. Africa is a proper noun, so I needed an uppercase A. So does my sentence start with an uppercase, and does it end with punctuation? Does it have the right amount of space between its words, and does it make sense? Ask yourself these questions as you work on your report. Now here's number 1 on the report. Name one adaptation. Now, on your paperwork, it says name one adaptation on this animal. But I didn't have enough room to write that on my paper, so I shortened it. And look, Mrs. Coppola found another writing error. I needed a punctuation mark there. How did I answer that? Giraffes have long legs. So the first adaptation that I'm going to talk about on my giraffe is its long legs. When you answer that sentence, that question, I want you to write it in a complete sentence. Giraffes have long legs. Not just long legs, but what giraffes have. And so I included it in a sentence that makes sense. Okay, now, I didn't have enough room on that poster to finish the report, the first page. So I want to show you on this page now. Number 2, name another adaptation on this animal. See how Mrs. Coppola answered number 2? Giraffes have long necks. And now I'm going to talk about how they use their long necks to survive. Can you read my sentence? Giraffes use their long necks to reach leaves on tall trees. So I described in a complete sentence the way that giraffes use the adaptation of their long neck. Okay, now that's the only page that was required for this week. But I would like you to take your paper out and look at it and do some editing. Do you have your uppercase letters? Is your writing neat? Do your sentences make sense? And are they complete? Now, next week, you're going to do this page where you write 5 sentences about your animal. And you can use a lot of the information that you wrote on the first page. The last page is for you to draw the animal in its habitat. And I did that already because I really wanted to get to the art part. And that's okay too. I want to show you how my art looks today. Okay, so I'm going to hold it up so you can see it closely. I'll clean up my whiteboard. Okay, so I tried to draw a realistic picture of a giraffe in its habitat. Now, I did use some strategies online how to draw a giraffe. I wanted to make sure that you could tell you could identify the adaptations. Remember on this page too, it says draw the animal in its habitat and then label 3 adaptations on this animal. I would label its long neck. I would label its long legs. And then I'm also going to label the giraffe's eyelashes. I didn't talk about it on the first page, but giraffes have long eyelashes that keep the dust out of their eyes. Giraffes live in a hot, dusty place. Remember I said the grasslands of Africa? And so I tried to show its habitat in a flat, grassy area. I tried to show the dust. And then look what I drew here. I drew one of those tall trees. And I drew more than one giraffe because giraffes travel and live in herds. Do you remember what a herd is? A herd is a group of animals that lives together. So now I'm going to add my adaptation labels to my giraffe. Long neck, long legs, and eyelashes. And I'm even going to say long eyelashes. So now my last page is done, and it was fun. I liked drawing it. So I drew my animal, I labeled its adaptations, and I drew my animal in its habitat. All right. I can't wait to see your reports because you guys are getting so good at writing, and in my class, you're fantastic artists. I'm sure that Miss Van Gerwen and Miss Curtis would say the same thing about their classrooms. All right, I will be seeing you soon, and remember, work hard on your report. We're getting ready for 2nd grade, and our writing needs to be the best. Thanks. Bye, guys.